So this is the good and the bad of finances and marriage and how this affects a relationship between two people and their children. The reason I've chosen this topic for my final project is because it hits close to home to me. Growing up, finances were never a point of emphasis for either of my parents. I love my parents, but they made many poor decisions and never really exemplified financial literacy. My father passed away when I was 10, which definitely left a sour taste in my mouth because he did make a lot of money at some points in my childhood, but he never really showed me how to be financially literate or how to be good with money. So it was kind of more of a negative than a positive in my life. But that's a conversation for a different time. Fortunately, after seeing how my parents handle money, I've vowed to do the complete opposite of that. My goal is to create generational wealth for my family through getting into the real estate game and learning the trade and generating cash flow through many investment properties that I'll hopefully own one day. And in the case that something happens to me, my family will be taken care of in that regard. When my father died, it was kind of a scramble for everybody else around me, and so I don't want that to happen for my family. And so now that I've laid out the foundation for why I've chosen this topic, we can take a deeper dive into how finances can positively impact or negatively impact marriage. So according to the Jimenez Law Group, about 4 out of every 10 marriages, or 40%, end due to finances. And let's look at the positives first, starting with budgeting. Marriage.com states this perfectly in that budgeting for couples involves open communication, setting shared goals with each other, and a bit of compromise or meeting in the middle ground. And it means that both parties need to be on the same page in order to create a system that works for them. And when both people feel like the other is wrong, they need to meet in the middle to come to an agreement about what they think will kind of be the middle point so that both get their way to some degree. Another good habit that will help couples in the long run is to keep their debt manageable. WellsFargo.com says to keep debt manageable, which is just code for not living beyond your means and saving and investing responsibly. Discussing your future goals with your partner is very critical, according to modern husbands. We need to have these tough conversations with our significant other so that we can nip these issues in the bud as we see them happening or unfolding. So what causes a marriage to fail financially? We've looked at all the ways that will lead to success, but what about the inverse of that? First State Community Bank takes a look at one-sided spending that can lead to divorce. What this entails is that one spouse spends without much regard for the other person's wants. This leads to at the minimum arguments, which can turn into much larger issues down the road, such as resentment and divorce. Many couples also decide to hide their finances from each other, according to Forbes, which is setting a marriage up for failure. Hiding a credit card account or some other form of financial vehicle is a recipe for disaster because you're kind of getting rid of that trust factor, which if you don't have trust in a relationship, you're really doomed to fail. You should always include your spouse in decisions that are being made because you all are a unit at the end of the day. Extended family can also be a potential cause for concern for many couples, according to Investopedia. I really hadn't thought of this issue myself, but when another family member needs a handout or is in a desperate time, it kind of puts a strain on the entire family. One spouse may want to do it and the other doesn't, and that can also cause a rift. And while it's technically not their responsibility, it is also, at the end of the day, hard to turn your back on family. The couple has to assess the situation and come to a decision on how they should handle this type of problem and come to some sort of resolution. If they can't offer a handout, maybe they can offer that family member a place to stay or just a lending ear for a problem if financially they're not able to help them out. One person cannot make a decision. At the end of the day, one person cannot make a decision without first consulting the other. That is the most basic principle of a happy marriage when it comes to finances. I will talk about how this affects children and the two people in the marriage relationship in my final project. This is just a draft, and so I hope that I've kind of laid out the foundation of what I'm looking at well. And so next will be the two people in the marriage and relationship, and what happens to children, and what can help happen to children. And then also I'll look at maybe some resolutions on what couples can do to mitigate those problems. Thank you for watching.